The moment I realized my best friend betrayed me. Before we begin the story, make sure to subscribe to our channel and never miss more incredible stories every day. I stared at the login history and realized my best friend had been inside my life. Not the metaphorical way, like, you know me so well. I meant the literal way. IP addresses, device names, timestamps. My Gmail security page showed iPad, Rowan's iPad, as a trusted device. Last active, 11:42 p.m. yesterday. Location, Rowan's neighborhood in the suburbs. Under recent security activity was a line that made my stomach lurch. Email forwarding rule added. My hands went cold so fast I almost dropped the folder on my passenger seat. Inside were printouts from the phone repair shop, the receipt with the technician's notes, hidden filter, auto-forward enabled. A screenshot Talia had texted me, and the one email header Mr. Doyle had forwarded with a note that just said, "Jamie, did you send this?" I hadn't. Outside my windshield, strings of warm lights wrapped around the patio of the Juniper room. I could see silhouettes moving behind the windows, people laughing with drinks in their hands. Tonight was Rowan's engagement party. That mattered because half the people in my industry were going to be there: clients, recruiters, Doyle's colleagues, even HR people from my company who were friends of friends. If Rowan wanted to rewrite who I was, this was the perfect stage. I was 29, a mid-level project manager at a small design studio downtown, and I'd spent 3 years clawing my way from temp contracts into stability. One bad rumor could shove me right back into the gig swamp. One unprofessional email to the wrong client could kill a promotion I'd already tasted. And Rowan was the person who sat with me on my kitchen floor after my dad died, eating cold pizza and telling me I wasn't broken. Rowan was the person who called me family out loud. I told myself there had to be an explanation. A mistake. A glitch. Anything but what the evidence kept saying. My phone buzzed again. A new security alert. Password reset requested. Then Talia's name lit up my screen, and her voice came in low. "Jamie," she said, "tell me you're not walking in there alone." I opened my mouth to answer, and through the glass I saw Rowan lift a champagne flute, smiling like nothing had ever happened. That smile was the last normal thing I'd ever see from them. Rowan and I met in the least glamorous place possible, the basement computer lab at Westbridge Community College, where the air always smelled like overheated plastic. I was 19, commuting from my mom's place, working nights at a grocery store, and trying to convince myself I belonged. Rowan slid into the chair next to me like we'd known each other forever, pointed at my screen, and said, "If you're going to suffer through Excel, at least use shortcuts." I laughed. Then I stayed after class so they could show me. It turned into a ritual. Tuesdays and Thursdays, we'd escape to Maple and Steam, the old cafe with mismatched mugs and a bulletin board full of lost cat flyers. We'd split one cinnamon roll because we were always broke, and Rowan would talk about one day like it was something you could order. One day we'd have apartments with dishwashers. One day we'd have jobs that didn't make our backs hurt. One day people would stop treating us like background characters. Rowan made my life feel bigger just by paying attention to it. When my dad got sick, Rowan didn't flinch when I told the truth. When I admitted I hated how shame followed me around like a smell, Rowan squeezed my wrist and said, "Your family stuff isn't who you are." So I told them things I didn't tell anyone else. The password I used for everything back then. The fact that I kept an emergency fund hidden in a sock drawer because I was terrified of being trapped again. Rowan stored my secrets like they were delicate. And in return, Rowan gave me theirs. How they'd grown up in a house that looked perfect from the street and felt like a minefield inside. How compliments were currency in their family. How being good was the only way to be safe. We grew up side by side, then drifted into our 20s with the kind of friendship people assume is unbreakable. When I got hired at Doyle's studio, Rowan toasted me like I'd won an award. When Rowan moved into that spotless townhouse, I helped hang frames and joked that their place looked like a catalog. At Maple and Steam, Rowan leaned across the table one night and said, smiling, "Promise we don't turn into strangers." I promised, and I meant it with my whole chest. I just didn't know Rowan had already started keeping score. The first weird thing happened on an ordinary Tuesday, the kind where you don't expect your life to tilt. Mr. Doyle called me into his office after our morning stand-up. "Jamie, the MetroGrow account is asking for you," he said. "They liked your last rollout. It could turn into a lead role if you handle this right. Great, I said, trying not to sound like I'd just won the lottery. When's the meeting? Doyle glanced at his screen and hesitated. They said you declined. By email. Yesterday. My brain stalled. I didn't email them. He lifted a hand like he wasn't judging. Then someone did from your address. Or they're confused. Either way, they're not happy. Back at my desk, I tore through my sent folder. Nothing. No Metro Grow thread. No decline. No trace. I told myself it was a mix-up. Wrong Jamie, wrong email, whatever. But my skin didn't believe me. The second thing happened at lunch. Talia and I sat on a bench outside my building with iced coffees. I showed her a LinkedIn message from a recruiter. Heard you're not looking, but if you change your mind. I typed back, I am looking. The recruiter replied, oh, sorry. I was told you passed and wanted to stay small and safe. Small and safe. I felt the phrase hit my ribs like a knuckle. I'd only ever said it once, years ago at Maple and Steam, when Rowan teased me for being cautious. Talia watched my face change. Okay, she said slowly. Who knows that about you? Rowan, I admitted, and immediately hated how paranoid it sounded. That night, I called Rowan anyway, because habit is strong. We chatted about nothing, traffic, their fiancé, a new restaurant, until I couldn't stand it. Hey, I said, forcing a laugh. Did you ever talk to anyone about me not job hunting? Rowan sounded genuinely surprised. What? No. Why would I? I told myself to drop it. I told myself to trust the person who'd held my grief in their hands. Then, while we were still on the phone, I opened Gmail and saw a new draft sitting there like a trap, a message to Metro Grow, written in my tone, with the subject line meeting, and a timestamp from yesterday. My mouth went dry as I scrolled down and read the first sentence. Then my phone showed an email draft I didn't remember writing at all. 2 days later, Rowan invited me to Maple and Steam like nothing was wrong. They were already there when I arrived, seated in our old corner under the crooked framed photo of a bridge. Rowan looked perfect in that effortless way, hairstyled, nails done, phone face down like they didn't need it to survive. Hey, stranger, Rowan said, standing to hug me. You look tired. Work's been weird, I said, choosing that word because anything sharper felt like an accusation. Rowan's eyes softened with practiced concern. I hate that for you. Do you want me to reach out to anyone? I still know people at Metro Grow. I stiffened. How do you even know Metro Grow asked for me? Rowan blinked once, then laughed. Because you told me last week? When we talked about your promotion. I didn't remember saying that. But my memory had been mush lately. Late nights, stress, too much screen time. I felt stupid for even questioning it. Rowan leaned back and took a sip of coffee. Honestly, they said in a light voice, sometimes you get in your own way. You overthink, you spiral, you go radio silent. People interpret that as flaky. The words were casual, almost kind, but they landed like a tiny slap. I glanced around and realized the barista behind the counter was listening, smiling politely like this was harmless gossip. My ears burned. I'm not flaky, I said too fast. Rowan held up both hands. Whoa, I'm on your side, Jamie. I'm literally offering to help. Help. That word made my stomach twist. When we left, Rowan insisted on walking me to my car, like we were teenagers again. In the parking lot, they squeezed my shoulder and said, text me your calendar. I'll make sure you're not missing anything. I forced a smile and said, sure, because it was easier than explaining why my skin felt wrong. That night, at 1:13 a.m., my phone buzzed with a notification from Google, new sign-in to your account. I sat up so hard my pillow fell to the floor. The alert showed a location pinged in the suburbs, and under device, it listed something that made my vision blur. The device name matched Rowan's iPad, and I stopped breathing. By morning, the alert felt like a nightmare you try to laugh off with coffee. I screenshot everything anyway, time, device, location, and sent it to Talia. Am I losing it? She called immediately. No, she said, and don't let anyone make you think you are. That evening I brought it up to Rowan the healthy way. Calm tone, open question, no accusations. Hey, I said, did you try to log into my Google account last night? A pause. Then Rowan sounded wounded in that careful, controlled way. Jamie, why would I do that? I got an alert, I said. It said your iPad. Rowan chuckled softly, like I'd misread a sign. Device names aren't always accurate. And remember when you used my iPad to cast Netflix at my place? You probably clicked trust this device. I did remember borrowing it. Once. Months ago. That explanation fit just enough to loosen my grip on certainty. Rowan kept their voice gentle and slightly offended. Look, I love you. But you're stressed. You're seeing patterns because you're scared. That's normal. Don't spiral, okay? The word spiral tightened my throat. Anxiety had always been the easiest way to get me to apologize. I'm not spiraling, I said, and immediately hated how defensive it sounded. Rowan went warmer. Hey, I'm on your team. Come over tomorrow. I'll cook. We'll reset. After we hung up, I sat in my small apartment and stared at the screenshot again, trying to convince myself I was being dramatic. Talia showed up later with noodles, and that look she got when she'd already decided something. You notice how Rowan always says the right thing? She asked. What do you mean? I mean, it's like they have a script for you, Talia said. They label your reactions, spiral, overthink, sensitive, so you stop trusting yourself. I tried to defend Rowan out of habit. They've known me forever. Exactly, Talia said. They know which buttons work. She didn't yell. She didn't even sound smug. She sounded sad. Jamie, she said, if you saw this happening to me, what would you call it? I opened my mouth, and nothing came out. Talia slid her phone across the table, showing a screenshot that wasn't mine. The screenshot on Talia's phone was an email thread from 2 days earlier. Subject, Metro Grow Kickoff. From my email address. The message was polite on the surface and quietly nasty underneath. It thanked Metro Grow, then said I preferred smaller clients, that their timeline was unrealistic, and that I wouldn't be available for unnecessary meetings. It ended with, please remove me from future outreach. I didn't send that, I said, like the words could anchor me. I know, Talia replied. Look at the timestamp. 11:44 p.m. Same window as the login alert. I tried to force logic into the panic. Maybe someone spoofed my email. Talia didn't blink. Then why did Metro Grow reply in the same thread? She was right. This wasn't a fake address. This was my inbox being used like a puppet. I went straight to my account settings. My hands shook so hard I mistyped my password twice. When I finally got in, I saw changes I'd never made. A recovery phone number that wasn't mine, a backup email I didn't recognize, and trusted devices that included Rowan's iPad and a MacBook labeled Rowan Home. I clicked into Gmail settings, then filters. There was a rule created 3 months ago, buried under innocent names like receipts and newsletters. This one was called Calendar. Actions, forward to JH. Projects, archive at protonmail.com. Mark as read. Skip inbox. Talia leaned over my shoulder. That means you'd never see it. I clicked edit, and the criteria felt like someone reciting my future. If subject contained interview, offer, kickoff, contract, HR, or the names of recruiters I'd recently spoken to, my whole body went cold. This wasn't a mistake. It was a system. I stared at the delete button and realized the only way out was evidence, not emotion. So I didn't delete it. I added a label called evidence, turned on two-factor authentication, and started taking screenshots. Every device, every recovery change, every filter detail. Then I opened the forwarding address and felt my stomach drop. The filter forwarded every job email to an address I didn't recognize. Once you spot one thread, you start seeing the whole sweater unravel. Talia and I sat on my couch Friday night with laptops open in silence. I pulled up Google's account activity and filtered for Gmail. There were entries marked accessed from Safari, which I never used, and the location kept landing in the same place. The suburbs near Rowan's townhouse. Headers, Talia said. Open the Metro Grow one. We clicked Show Original and stared at the block of technical text. I didn't understand most of it, but one line was clear enough to make my stomach drop. An originating IP in Rowan's zip code. I searched my inbox for interview and offer and found gaps, threads that should have existed but didn't. Then I checked all mail and found them hiding, marked as read, labeled calendar, and quietly forwarded. One recruiter email from a month ago read, following up on your voicemail. Sorry to hear you're dealing with personal issues. Voicemail? I checked my call log. No outgoing call. But my Google Voice history showed an outgoing call from my account at 10:06 p.m. Again from the suburbs. Talia exhaled hard. That's not just email, Jamie. That's someone being you. A year of tiny weirdness snapped into a pattern. Mr. Doyle easing me away from client-facing work until things settle, a coworker joking I was going through it, strangers acting like they knew private details. I texted Rowan, casual on purpose. Hey, did you ever set up my Google Voice when my phone died a while back? Rowan replied instantly. LOL, no, why? The lie was smooth enough to make my teeth hurt. Then memory stabbed me. 3 years ago, my phone died the night before a deadline. Rowan handed me their laptop and said, just log in. It's fine. I typed my password while half asleep, grateful, trusting. I looked at my trusted devices again. Rowan Home first appeared on that exact date. I swallowed hard. This wasn't one betrayal. It was a system built out of my trust. Talia stood and grabbed her coat. We need one undeniable moment, she said. Something you can't talk yourself out of. I knew where to get it. Rowan had invited me for dinner Sunday, and I still had a key. In Rowan's kitchen, my name popped up as an active session. Sunday night, Rowan's townhouse smelled like garlic and expensive candles. They hugged me at the door, apron on, acting like we were about to have the kind of dinner that resets everything. Wine? Rowan asked. Sure, I said, and my voice sounded normal enough to fool them. Rowan's phone rang while they were at the stove. They glanced at the screen and rolled their eyes. Cam's mom, they mouthed, then said, I have to take this. 2 minutes. Rowan went upstairs. My heart hammered so loud I thought the cabinets would rattle. I didn't have a grand plan. I just had the sick certainty that if I didn't look now, I'd keep doubting forever. Rowan's laptop sat open on the counter, screen awake like it was waiting for me. And there, right in the top corner, was my profile photo. I clicked. My Gmail inbox filled the screen, already logged in. An active session. I pulled out my phone and filmed with shaking hands. In sent were emails I'd never written, declining meetings, apologizing for personal instability, telling clients to contact someone else. In drafts, there was one addressed to Mr. Doyle. I'm stepping back from leadership opportunities until my anxiety is under control. My throat closed. I could practically hear Doyle reading that and quietly deciding I wasn't ready. I checked Google Voice. The call history matched the recruiter's number. I hit voicemail and saw an audio file labeled with yesterday's date. I didn't play it. I just recorded the timestamp and backed out before my hands betrayed me. Then I saw a browser tab, a spreadsheet with neat columns, company, contact, date, outcome. My name was in the title. So were notes like decline politely, mention burnout, suggest Jamie wants stability, loop back in 6 months. This wasn't chaos. It was project management. I scrolled and found a row that made my vision tunnel, my current job. In the notes column it said, HR, seed concern. Use therapist angle. I sank into Rowan's dining chair, nausea rising. I'd come here expecting one misunderstanding. Instead, I'd found a blueprint. And I still didn't know why. On Rowan's screen was a folder labeled Jamie, Containment. I left Rowan's townhouse with a smile glued to my face and my stomach full of stones. Rowan hugged me at the door and said, See, you look lighter already. I nodded like I agreed, then drove home and sat in my car until my hands stopped shaking. Talia came over. I showed her the video, my Gmail open on Rowan's laptop, the spreadsheet tracking my opportunities, the folder labeled Jamie, Containment. Her voice went quiet. We can't wing this. We need receipts that survive daylight. My body wanted revenge. My brain wanted safety. If I blew up at Rowan's engagement party, people would call it drama, and I'd be the unstable one. Exactly the story Rowan had been planting. So I called Detective Ruiz, a friend of Talia's family who'd handled an identity theft case for them once. He didn't gasp. He didn't joke. He got clinical. Treat it like evidence, he said. Screenshots, screen recordings, original headers. Export account activity. Write a timeline while it's fresh. And then, I asked, and then you secure your accounts, Ruiz replied. But if you can get them to repeat the behavior after you tighten things up, that's strong. Patterns matter. A trap, not a tantrum. I made a new email address on a different provider and added it as a backup. I switched my passwords, turned on two-factor with an authenticator app, and saved everything to an encrypted folder. Then I did the part that made me feel sick. I left Rowan's forwarding filter in place. Are you sure? Talia asked. I needed to keep talking, I said, and I hated how calm I sounded. We built a canary. Talia emailed me with a subject line designed to trigger the filter. Interview offer, confidential. The body was simple. Call me tonight. Time sensitive. Then we waited. I stared at my inbox until my eyes hurt, refreshing like it was a heartbeat monitor. Part of me still hoped nothing would happen, that Rowan would suddenly choose decency. That hope lasted 12 minutes. By midnight, the canary email had vanished from my inbox exactly as planned. Monday morning, Rowan acted like nothing had changed. They texted, "Hope your week's better. Proud of you." I forced a bland reply. If Rowan suspected I knew, they'd switch tactics. At 10:19 a.m., my new email address pinged. Forwarded message. Interview offer, confidential. The canary had gone straight to that Proton Mail address, and then bounced back to me through the forwarding chain I'd set up. Rowan was still grabbing my mail. My phone rang. Rowan. I answered, keeping my voice neutral. Hey. Rowan didn't start with accusations. They started with concern. Jamie, they said softly. Are you okay? I'm fine, I lied. I'm worried about you, Rowan continued. You've been distant. You're not yourself. I tightened my grip on the phone. I've been busy. Rowan sighed, like they'd been patient for too long. I heard you snapped at someone at work. My stomach dropped. Who told you that? It doesn't matter, Rowan said quickly. I'm trying to help, but you're making it hard. There it was, help again. The word that sounded like love and felt like a leash. I didn't snap at anyone, I said. Rowan's tone stayed gentle, but something colder edged in. Jamie, I know what it looks like when you're spiraling. I've seen it, and I don't want you to ruin what you've built. My throat burned. Why are you talking like I'm a crisis? Because I care, Rowan said, and the emphasis felt like pressure. And because you're not being honest. With me. With yourself. I could feel my brain doing the old dance, searching for the version of Rowan who sat on my kitchen floor and told me I wasn't broken. For a second, I wanted to collapse into that memory and let this all be a misunderstanding. Then Rowan said, casually, also, Talia's been filling your head. She doesn't know you like I do. What? I said. You know, Rowan replied, light again. She likes conflict. She makes everything dramatic. I'm just saying, be careful who you let influence you. It was so familiar I almost missed it. Isolate, label, soften. My phone vibrated with an incoming text from Rowan, and the message preview made my vision blur. Rowan texted me a screenshot of my own therapist's name. I didn't go to the engagement party that week. Instead, I went to work early and asked Mr. Doyle for 15 minutes. My request sounded harmless. Can we talk about Metro Grow and the lead role? If anyone overheard, it wouldn't sound like I was accusing my best friend of anything. Doyle waved me in and shut the door. I'm glad you asked, he said. I've been meaning to check in. My stomach tightened. About what? He didn't sugarcoat it. You've been sending messages that read like you're pulling yourself out. Declining meetings. Asking to be removed from threads. And last week you asked to step back from leadership opportunities. I didn't, I said. Doyle paused. You didn't send them? I didn't send any of it, I said. Someone has been inside my accounts. For a beat, he looked like he was deciding whether this was an excuse. Then he said, simply, show me. I handed him my phone and played the screen recording. My Gmail open on Rowan's laptop, my profile photo in the corner, my sent folder full of polite sabotage. I let the timestamps speak. Doyle watched the whole thing without blinking. When it ended, he opened the Metro Grow email he'd forwarded me and said, walk me through what matters. So I did. Original headers. Timestamps. The sign-in alert. The forwarding filter catching interview and offer. The canary email disappearing from my inbox and arriving in the hidden backup address. Doyle's jaw tightened. This isn't a mistake, he said. This is a pattern. Yes, I answered, and my hands started shaking again. He looked up. Do you know who's doing it? I hesitated, because saying Rowan's name out loud felt like breaking glass. But I'd come here for witness, not comfort. My best friend, I said. Rowan. Doyle's eyes flicked, recognizing the name. The Rowan who's been at our mixers. I nodded. He sat back, calm again in that way that meant he was already building a plan. We document this formally, he said. HR needs to know, and we keep it clean. No public accusations. Just proof. He turned his laptop toward me and pointed at the originating IP line. Mr. Doyle stared at the header, then said, That wasn't you. HR agreed to meet, and Mr. Doyle insisted on sitting in. We used a glass conference room at 4:30 p.m. I wanted witnesses who mattered before Rowan could rewrite the story. Rowan walked in smiling. Hey, what's going on? Doyle didn't return it. We need clarity on communications sent from Jamie's accounts. Rowan's eyes flicked to me. Okay. I slid my phone across the table. That's my Gmail open on your laptop. Rowan laughed, light and offended. Jamie, seriously? I hit play. The recording showed my profile photo in the corner of Rowan's screen, my sent folder full of declined meetings, drafts to Metro Grow, and the spreadsheet tracking my opportunities. That could be edited, Rowan said. So I handed HR the printed email header Doyle brought and pointed to the timestamp and originating IP. Then I showed the Gmail filter. Forward to a Proton mail address. Mark as read. Skip inbox. Triggered by interview. Offer. Contract. HR. Rowan tried to pivot into my weakness. This is paranoid. I kept my voice steady. Then why did my account activity list your iPad signing in at 11:44 p.m.? HR asked, calm. Rowan, did you access Jamie's accounts? Rowan's charm snapped back. No. Jamie's been stressed. He forgets things. I cut in with the thing Rowan couldn't sweet talk. I opened Google Voice and pressed play on the voicemail file dated yesterday. A voice came through, apologizing to a recruiter, saying, I'm dealing with personal stuff. I'm not ready for bigger roles. It sounded like me until it didn't. Rowan's face drained. The smile died completely. You went through my laptop, Rowan said, voice flat. I went through my life, I said. HR leaned forward. Rowan, we need an explanation. Rowan stared at me, and the anger finally showed. I was protecting you, they said. You don't handle pressure. You ruin things. And you were going to leave me behind. Rowan's voice dropped to a whisper. Rowan finally whispered. You were never supposed to see the folder. The meeting ended without a scream or a table flip, which almost made it worse. HR told Rowan to leave. Doyle walked them out. I stayed in the glass room with HR while my hands shook in my lap. We'll open an investigation, she said. We'll secure your work accounts, notify impacted clients, and document what happened. You should also file a police report. Unauthorized access and impersonation can cross legal lines. By evening, the studio buzzed anyway, because nothing stays contained in a place built on gossip and deadlines. Some coworkers hugged me. Some avoided my eyes. One person asked, too casually, are you okay, like mentally? And I felt the word unsafe crawling up my spine. Rowan didn't text me. A mutual friend did. Is it true you hacked Rowan and accused them? My stomach dropped. Of course Rowan was flipping the story. They'd been practicing for months. Talia showed up with that grim calm she got when she was done being polite. You have proof, she said. They have a narrative. Stick to proof. Detective Ruiz helped me file a report and told me to keep everything in writing. No calls with Rowan, he warned. If they bait you, it becomes their exhibit. The next morning, Mr. Doyle forwarded a client note asking if I was still stable enough to handle their account. It wasn't cruel. It was cautious. That was worse. HR moved me off client-facing work temporarily, which was their way of containing risk while they investigated. I understood it. I still wanted to punch a wall. Then Rowan finally reached out, by email, not text. It started with, I'm sorry you feel hurt. It ended with, I'm afraid your stress is making you unsafe. I blocked their number, deleted them from my socials, and cried until my ribs hurt. Not because I missed them, but because I couldn't believe I'd loved someone who used my vulnerability like a tool. Then my inbox pinged with a new message from HR. Formal complaint received. The next day, a formal complaint landed in HR, filed against me. The complaint Rowan filed was neat and poisonous. It accused me of harassment and false accusations. Read cold, it sounded believable. That was the point. HR asked me to respond in writing. So I did, like I was building a case instead of a life. I attached the screen recording of my Gmail open on Rowan's laptop. I attached exported security activity with device names and timestamps. I attached original email headers and screenshots of the forwarding filter. Detective Ruiz added a short note confirming I'd contacted him after I found evidence of unauthorized access. Then I included the canary email chain, the exact minute it vanished from my inbox and where it was forwarded. 2 days later, HR called me in again. We're closing the complaint, she said. It appears retaliatory. We've documented unauthorized access and impersonation impacting your work communications. We're issuing a no-contact directive regarding Rowan. Relief didn't feel like fireworks. It felt like finally unclenching my jaw. Doyle put me back on client work, but I still had to earn back comfort in the room, one normal day at a time. So I rebuilt the practical stuff first. Password manager, two-factor authentication everywhere, new recovery emails, credit freeze, and a real bank account for my emergency fund. Then I rebuilt the human stuff. In therapy, I admitted the ugliest part. I'd liked being needed by Rowan. It made loyalty feel simple. It made my boundaries optional. I didn't blast Rowan online. I didn't make a scene. When mutual friends asked, I said, I have proof. I'm not debating it. Some left. Some came back later and apologized quietly. I changed my apartment locks even though it felt dramatic. I stopped going to Maple and Steam and found a new cafe across town where no one knew our history. I made my world a little smaller on purpose so it could be mine again. The day Rowan broke no contact with a long message about forgiveness, I didn't reply. I saved it and forwarded it to Ruiz. I thought that was closure. When I thought it was over, a package arrived with no return address. The package was a padded envelope with no return address, my name typed in all caps. My first thought was automatic, Rowan. My second thought was the one I'd trained myself into, evidence. I photographed it, then opened it carefully at my kitchen table while Talia watched. Inside was a cheap USB drive and a folded note on plain printer paper. Jamie, you made me do this the hard way. That was the whole note. The USB held copies of the spreadsheet and the containment folder, plus exported emails. Like Rowan wanted me to understand it hadn't been a glitch or a moment of panic. It had been a plan with a title. For a minute, I felt grief hit me in a way anger never did. Not because I still wanted the friendship, but because I'd spent years confusing intimacy with access. I'd treated secrets like loyalty. Rowan treated them like inventory. I forwarded the files to Ruiz and HR, then deleted them from my personal devices. I refused to keep Rowan's version of me living rent-free in my laptop. A few weeks later, I walked into Maple and Steam for the first time since everything. The Crooked Bridge photo was still on the wall. I ordered coffee, sat alone, and let the nostalgia pass through me without grabbing on. That was my closure. I could be in our old place without letting it pull me backward. What I learned the expensive way. If someone helps by stepping between you and your opportunities, that's not support. That's control. If they label your reactions, spiral, sensitive, paranoid, so you stop trusting yourself, that's a tactic. If your world keeps shrinking around one person's comfort, you're not being loyal, you're being managed. Practical takeaway. Turn on two-factor authentication, use a password manager, review trusted devices, and check for forwarding rules you didn't create. Emotional takeaway. Watch patterns, not apologies. Rowan's consequence wasn't a viral public humiliation. It was quieter, doors closing, invitations stopping, and a paper trail that didn't care how charming they looked. My consequence was rebuilding my instincts. If someone protects you by making you smaller, listen to that feeling and leave.